The purpose of this training today is to wake you up to where you have been blind, to where you have been ignorant. A lot of people think ignorant means not to know, but if you look at the word ignorant, ignorant, where are you ignoring things in your life, things that you're aware of that you would like to change, but are ignoring? Where are you distracting yourself? So the purpose of this training is to bring awareness to those things, because in awareness, all things are possible. As Viktor Frankl said in Man's Search for Meaning, our greatest power is our power to choose in the space between stimulus and response. The problem is that most people, myself included, sometimes become unconscious. And instead of responding, we react. Something happens, we react with our self-destructive patterns, how we have been programmed with fear, anxiety, self-doubt is a huge one. So this is about waking up. You are the master of your fate. You are the captain of your soul. You are always creating your reality, whether or not you are conscious of it. The purpose of this training is to help you become the conscious creator of your reality, as opposed to it feeling like life is happening to you, like you are the victim of circumstance. You are the victim of your self-destructive thoughts. You're the victim of your bad habits, as if these habits have power over you. The only reason anything has power over you is because you give it power over you. So it's time to act like it. It's time to take back that power. Started off with this quote from William Whitecloud. He says, "We all have within us the ability to naturally succeed and create the best life possible, and we most certainly deserve to be supported in that possibility," which is why each and every one of you are here on this call, including you guys who are watching the recording, because your first responsibility in order to create your best life possible is to learn how to support yourself. What needs to happen in order for you to actually begin to be your own teammate? Acceptance. Acceptance is the first step to truly being able to support yourself, because what I mean by acceptance is acceptance of everything that is, acceptance of your current reality, and really looking at it, really being honest with where you are, with what you're experiencing, with what you have, with what you don't have, with your thoughts, with your feelings, simply allowing them to look at them, especially the ones that don't feel good, especially the anxiety, the shame, the guilt, really looking at it and accepting it, that that is, in fact, what you have been or what you have created. All of your actions up until this point have created all of these current circumstances in your reality. So the first step to actually being able to support yourself is accepting everything that already is, as it is. And so with that being said, go ahead and type this in the comments. What problem are you here to solve? Why did you guys come on this call? What in your life are you unsatisfied with? You all came into this call with some form of acceptance. There was something that you realized that you accepted was happening that you no longer want to accept, that you don't want to have that be the norm. We got two for procrastination: fear of failure, which can also lead to procrastination. If fear of failure is accompanied with inaction, then yes, that's procrastination. So fear of failure is okay. It's if that's accompanied with inaction that creates the problem. Then that creates this buildup of unease in our body, because we want to be creating something, we want to be putting ourselves out there. But when a fear of failure is combined with inaction, that builds up this energy, and that can ultimately lead to dis-ease. when we are out of ease with our true nature. Jessica says inconsistency. Jessica, what is it that you are struggling to stay inconsistent with? Because the more specific we can get, rather, the more specific you can get, the better you will be able to support yourself in this journey. Jessica says routine. Again, get specific. What routine? Because I can tell you right now, you are 100% consistent in the routine that you currently have. So consistency in a routine is not your problem. See what I'm saying? This is another reason why a lot of people don't actually achieve the goals that they have or create their life is because there's this ambiguity. Words are powerful. The more specific we can get in building our vision, in looking at what it is that we don't want, and then creating what it is that we do want, the higher our chances of success. Next set of questions. How are these things affecting you? Who else in your life is this impacting? And I encourage you guys to write these questions down as well. Grab your journal and your magic wand. Looks like some of you guys are writing because these are fantastic journal prompts. We're going to be going over these quickly for the sake of this class, but these are fantastic things to contemplate because again, the first step in supporting yourself is acceptance. And so really looking at like and asking yourself, who else in my life is my procrastination impacting? Who else in my life is affected by my fear of putting myself out there and starting my own business? And then how long have you known that you should be addressing that? Chris says procrastinating by over planning. It's myself, friends, and family. And he says disappointed in self, not currently affecting anyone but myself. Well, Andy, that's not true because I can tell you I'd be a whole lot better off if you weren't disappointed in yourself. We all would. As within, so without. We are all connected. What we do to self, we do to the collective. This is why my purpose is to make thriving standard. Because what's standard now? It's not thriving. It's not thriving. What's standard now is this self doubt, this belief that we aren't good enough, that we don't have what it takes, that we don't have time, that we're too old, insert whatever excuse. What's standard now is not believing or taking action on the life that we want to live, which is a state of thriving. My definition of thriving is accepting all and choosing best. So going back to the first step in being able to be your own supporter, to support your own growth, accept everything about your life, really look at it for exactly what it is, be radically honest with yourself, and then choose what's best. Because the reason why every single one of you are on this call today is either because you haven't accepted your circumstance, you've been lying to yourself or pretending or distracting yourself or covering it up, or maybe you have been honest with yourself, you have accepted it, but you haven't made the best choice. You've seen the problem, the procrastination, the self doubt, the disappointment, but you still continue to make the choices that lead to the undesired result, which is the exact opposite of thriving. Does that make sense? So, thriving is accepting all that is and then making the highest choice. And oftentimes, that's the more difficult choice. It's the more uncomfortable choice. Yes, which is why we don't make those decisions. And it's why the vast majority of people aren't actually living the life that they want. But not you guys. That's why you joined this masterclass to rid yourself from this mind virus that is making you make the same choices that are keeping you stuck. So if you have been aware of these things, which I asked you guys in the form when you registered for this class, how long you've been aware, it's ranged from a couple of years to like over 6 years to decades. Well, if you've been aware of these issues for years, why haven't you been able to solve it on your own? What is the missing link? I'll tell you. Albert Einstein said that we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. That's insanity. So what many of you guys have been doing, you've become aware of the problem or the thing in your life that you don't like, and you say you want to change it, yet you don't actually make any changes. Therefore, you keep repeating the same pattern, getting the same result, continuing to be unsatisfied with the result, complaining about the result, but your thinking hasn't changed. Your actions haven't changed because you've been missing these key ingredients. So here are the 4 key ingredients that are required for lasting change. Without these, any attempt at change will result in disappointment, in self, and ultimately slipping back into your bad habits. PISS. It's an acronym for purpose, identity, strategy, and support. These 4 key ingredients are what you must have in order for these changes you want to stick, in order for you to eliminate procrastination, in order for you to eliminate the disappointment in self. These must be present. So, purpose. Why do you exist? Why do you want to make these changes? Identity is who you are. Who you are is comprised of how you think, how you feel, and how you act, also known as your behavior. If you look at the word behave, it's 2 words, be and have. If you be the person you want to be, then you have the things that you want. For those of you who have gone through the program, Andy and Chris, you guys know about the MVBP section where we go deep into this. It takes a lot of acceptance, really looking at your life, and a lot of introspection to discover your purpose. And purpose is like this thing that a lot of people focus on, like finding my purpose. Well, you're not going to find it by looking outside. Purpose comes from within. So this requires a lot of, like I said, contemplation, a lot of introspection, sitting with self in silence, no distractions, because again, that's part of the problem is we're always distracted by something, whether it's our phone or friends or work or alcohol or insert whatever substance, even food. When we feel these negative feelings of disappointment or lack of self-worth or depression or guilt, shame, fear, we often do the exact opposite of accept them. We often run from them or try to make them go away. And if that's what you do, you'll never be able to find your purpose or really create who you are, because those feelings are there for a reason. They're trying to tell you something. But if we ignore them, then we never get the message. And if we don't get the message, then they keep replaying and they get louder and louder and louder till one day we wake up and we have a chronic dis-ease. But before it gets to that state, it shows up as anxiety, as overwhelm, as just built up tension because we're not releasing, we're not feeling. So yeah, identity is who you are. It's how you behave. It's a combination of how you think, feel, and act. Because your thoughts determine how you feel. How you feel dictates how you act. So if you want to change your actions, it's best to first change the thought process behind it. Because when you are connected to your purpose and understand your identity, understand like an inner knowing, it's impossible to fall off track because you're the type of person who takes those actions, right? The reason why people yo-yo on their diets or, go to the gym for a little bit and then fall off or start working on the business and then get distracted because something comes up is because they haven't embodied that identity. So it's kind of the half and half. It's like you have this visualization of who you want to be, but your behaviors are still in the past, and the mind virus is still caught up in this other version of you that likes to stay complacent and comfortable because change is uncomfortable. However, the more connected you are to your purpose and the more clear you are on who you are and what you want, the faster you will succeed. Because more than your genetic disposition, your IQ, your education, your gender, the political system you live under, the economic condition, or any other factor you might believe controls your life circumstances, it's the messages you give yourself, wittingly or unwittingly, that shape your experience. Consequently, you need to be able to hear what your unconscious is telling you because it's lying to you nonstop. It's constantly telling you you don't have it in you to achieve the end results you desire. This is the mind virus I'm talking about. That's running in the background. That's keeping us stuck. Again, the first step to eradicating that is accepting it, is really looking at what it's saying and listening to it. That doesn't mean believing it, which is what gets us caught. When we believe those self-limiting thoughts, when we believe the excuses, when we believe that we're not good enough. When that happens, when we believe that mind virus, the inner critic, we create a living hell in where we feel stressed, we feel disappointment, we feel unworthy, we feel judged, we feel grief, we feel unaccepted. However, Jesus said, "Ye must be born again, for except ye be born again, ye cannot enter the kingdom of heaven." Kingdom of heaven is within you, as within, so without. If you want to experience heaven on earth, you must first create heaven within. Again, the first step in this is acceptance. Stop judging yourself so hard. Believe me, I'm guilty of this too. I catch myself all the time judging myself. The more I'm able to be aware of that and accept myself for exactly as I am, and then choose how I respond, choose how I behave, the more in love with life I am, the more in love with self I am. And the more in love with self I am, the more I'm able to give, the more I'm able to inspire because I'm showing up as my highest expression of self. I'm acting out of love. So being born again in this instant means killing off the old version of you that is no longer serving you and instead defining the version of you who is or who will serve your highest good. This is what I call becoming the captain of your own life. Really defining what are the behaviors that this person lives by. Going back to the identity. What are your values? What do you stand for? What's your mission in life? Who do you serve? Neville Goddard said, "Your environment and all within it reflects that which you are in consciousness. As long as you continue to be that in consciousness, so long you will continue to outpicture it in your world, as within, so without." The rising in consciousness is the spiritual marriage where two shall agree upon being one. For life makes no mistakes and always gives man that which man first gives himself. So, what this is saying is whatever you think about yourself, whatever you believe about yourself, becomes your reality. To dissolve a problem that now seems so real to you, all that you do is remove your attention from it. In spite of its seeming reality, turn from it in consciousness, become indifferent, and begin to feel yourself to be that which would be the solution to the problem. Again, accepting all, accepting what is, accepting truth in the moment, and then choosing to be the solution to that problem, choosing the best path forward, acting out of love. Question I like to ask myself is, what would love do now? What would love do now? Is this resonating so far? Are you guys getting this? Give me a thumbs up or thumbs down. Any questions so far?
I have a question, Taylor.
Kelly,
Um,
let's hear it.
when it comes to self-acceptance, what if we like I really struggle with that because and I'm trying to be careful about the words that I say. I feel like I don't accept myself right now. Um, because I want to be better. Like, for example, if I never changed, I wouldn't be okay with that. So, do I accept myself as I am now?
If you'd like to. Would that make life easier for you?
I guess yes, in theory.
So acceptance does not mean tolerance.
Okay.
Everybody write that down. Acceptance does not mean tolerance. In fact, when you really accept reality and are radically honest with yourself, in that acceptance is action, is loving action because you realize the truth. And the truth is that no one who truly loves themselves will continue to tolerate this type of behavior, right? For me, this was a huge realization because I came to this realization just like 4 or 5 months ago. And, me being a coach, I was like, I didn't think that I judged myself that much. But then in this, I took a 3 day immersion where I had no contact with the outside world. I took like three-minute underwater ice baths a day, like hours of meditation and journaling and breath work. And it was also a 3 day fast. No food for the 3 days, no water for the first day. And it was then when I realized how much I was judging myself. In the meditations, I would observe these thoughts come up and realize how much like stress and pressure that was putting on me. And that was also causing inaction. And it would in if I were to take an action, the action was based in fear as opposed to love, because there's only two primary human emotions, fear and love. And in this case, fear is the unacceptance. And if you act from that place of unacceptance, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, even if you take the right actions, you won't necessarily get the desired result, and the feelings will not be the same. Versus if you accept yourself exactly as you are, and because you accept yourself and you love yourself, then you take these actions. So the energy behind it is completely different, and that's really what makes the difference. Is it loving action or is it fearful action of not being good enough? Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think just like I was not having a clear definition of acceptance.
Mm, thank you. Yeah, that's a good point. It would have been good for me to mention that acceptance doesn't mean tolerance in the beginning. I think that would have cleared things up because I hear that often is people hear acceptance like, well, I don't accept where I am now. I don't like where I am now. Well, okay. Let's first start by actually accepting it, because in that acceptance, you will realize the actual like depth of discomfort that you feel in this. Like it's for me, it's like a disgust. It's like, how am I allowing myself to continue this? And in that acceptance and radical honesty comes that disgust. And from that, like once I see that, it's like, okay, I no longer want to feel this way. So, okay, I accept this is where I am. I can't change it. I can't go back. But what I can do is accept that this is exactly where I am and choose best, which is the definition of thriving. Full acceptance of everything, how you're thinking, how you're feeling, your behaviors, your current environment for exactly what it is, because it's the present moment. The only thing that can change your experience of the present moment and in the future are the actions you take now. Doesn't matter what happened in the past. Doesn't matter if you've been doing something for 10 years. In that awareness, all things are possible, because we are not our thoughts. We are not our feelings. We are not our beliefs. Do you guys have the same exact beliefs as you did when you were 15? Do you think the same exact thoughts you do when you were 25? No. So if you were your thoughts, if you were your beliefs, then you wouldn't exist. So thoughts and beliefs come and go. You can view it as like, I view consciousness as a flowing river. And in this river, there are leaves and twigs and debris. Nowadays, plastic bottles, which fuck plastic. Be mindful of your single-use plastic. Styrofoam is another big one. I see it at the beach all the time. Grinds my gears. But anyways, so there's debris floating by in this river. And that's your consciousness. And the debris are like thoughts and feelings, but specifically in this case, thoughts. And what most people do is they're unconscious that they're conscious. So they have a thought and then they automatically attach themselves to that thought and make this thought mean something about them. And it's like, oh, this thing happened, so that means this. And so people attach themselves to, I am anxious. They're attaching themselves to their anxious thoughts. I am not good enough. I am unworthy. And then whatever thoughts come up that support this belief that I am unworthy, we focus on those thoughts. So in awareness, and this is where meditation and like journaling and breath work and even just acceptance and observing your thoughts comes in handy. This becomes a practice. You can, instead of zeroing in on one specific negative feedback loop, and instead zoom out and realize that it's just a thought. And I can observe this thought and not have it mean something about me, because I am not this thought. I am separate from this thought. I am the awareness of this. And this goes for the whole entire story of me, or the ego, right? Wow, I just realized now we're getting really, really deep. And this is really the whole point of this, the bigger, like 30,000 foot view of this training, is that in that awareness, we are quite literally the captain of our own life. We are the master of our fate. We get to choose how we be, because we are. Because we are infinite creation, we are an extension of source, of infinite possibility. And when we remain aware of that fact, we get to choose how we show up. So that was a little bit of a long tangent, but hopefully that answered your question, Kelly, of the acceptance, which is not tolerance. It's actually one of the most loving things that you can do, is truly accepting. Right. So it's time to ask yourself the question, with your most valuable resources being the things that you can never get back, money comes and goes, right? We're so cognizant of what we spend our money on. When it's a renewable resource, it flows, it goes, but time, there's only a finite amount of time. So are you spending these? Are you mindlessly consuming, freely giving your energy and attention away to whatever pops up, whatever notifications you get? Or are you investing? Are you investing your time in things that matter to you, in things that create a positive impact on the world? Are you investing your energy and attention in things that support your growth, or things that keep you stuck and distracted and in the matrix of society, where they don't want you to think about your problems? They don't want you to realize how upset you are about the condition of your life. They want you to just be distracted and watch TV and watch the news and argue about politics and get so caught up in the story that you completely forget who you are. And this is the crisis of identity that we're facing today, is because we're just giving up, for the most part, our time, energy, and attention without really being conscious of it and asking ourselves, is this really what I want? Is this actually how I want to invest my time and energy? We tend to live our lives by trying to work them out, never realizing why we might be so stuck in such an unsatisfying experience of our careers, lifestyles, or relationships, social involvement, health, or creative expression. The harder people try to give up their addictions, or overcome their financial problems, or hang on to their relationships, or control their lives, the more their problems seem to compound. Anybody relate to that? I certainly can, right? So this sentence right here, the harder people try to give up their addictions or overcome financial, relationships, everything, goes back to as within, so without. If you want to actually make a change, you have to change within. So trying to give up an addiction is a very good way to feel ashamed of yourself and feel guilty for when you inevitably take up the bad habit again. So instead of trying to give up the addiction, which is soft talk creates soft results. Soft talk are ambiguous words that get us off the hook for taking decisive action in our lives. So if you try to give up an addiction, and an addiction could be to anything. An addiction to waking up and living the same monotonous Groundhog Day over and over again. Instead, you must rise from it in consciousness. Become the type of person who no longer does that thing. And this is what we're about to get into, is defining what it is that you do want. So you, going back to, we are not our thoughts, we are not our feelings. You are not addicted to anything. You are not disappointed in yourself. You do not procrastinate. It's the version of you that you are latching onto, the thoughts, the feelings that you are choosing to believe and to do. But remember, from the awareness, all things are possible. So addictions and bad habits are not really bad habits once you become aware of them. A habit is just something you do habitually without even thinking of it. But most people, when they say they have a bad habit of procrastination, binge eating, scrolling social media, whatever, they say, I have a bad habit of this. No, you don't, because you're aware of it. And because you're aware of it, you can choose otherwise. So you've just been making bad choices, right? And it's this acceptance. That's what I'm talking about. This acceptance is accepting the fact that, oh, I have been aware of it. I have been choosing to continue this habit. Acceptance of that will finally get it to click, because you'll no longer tolerate that behavior in yourself when you realize that you do have a choice. And if you really do want to live the life that you visualize for yourself, then you'll realize that the only way to actually achieve that is to make new choices, the choices that serve you. And the bad habits and the things you feel ashamed and guilty about, those don't serve you. So the only logical solution is to make new choices, to rise from it in consciousness. So once you are clear on your purpose and identity, you need a clear strategy to consistently embody your purpose, to work towards it every single day. And armed with a clear strategy, you then need accountability and support along your journey. While I will say it is possible to do it on your own, it's incredibly difficult. And why would you subject yourself to that torment when you could surround yourself with people who support you versus people who consciously or unconsciously try to keep you at their level of reality? Like, I'll give an example. When I quit drinking for 2 years, I would still go out to bars with friends and parties, and my friends would try to get me to drink. And even after I had explained to them like the why, it's like, hey, this fucked up my life. I realized that this was no longer serving me, and in fact was creating the exact opposite life that I wanted to live. It was keeping me numb and distracted from the real problems. They would still, say things like, "Oh, come on, it's just this one time. It's the weekend. Oh, dude, it's the Marine Corps birthday. You're not gonna have a drink for the Marine Corps birthday?" Yes, because that's the decision that I made for myself. And this particular decision was not a hard or difficult choice for me. Like, I had no temptation to drink because I rose from it in consciousness. I clearly saw that this was not serving me. And I said, okay, if I no longer want to live this lifestyle for this period of time, I made a New Year's resolution in, what was it, 2019? Yeah, 2019, that I wouldn't drink for at least a year. It ended up being almost 2 years. And yeah, during that time, there was it didn't even require discipline. It's just I made the choice and that was it. So I say this a lot. The fastest way to come to the new life that you want to live is deciding and fully embodying that. That can happen instantaneously, like my decision to quit drinking. I just decided, and okay, I'm done with it. And for a lot of people, depending on how ingrained the mind virus is, it can require discipline. Most of the time, it does require discipline, which discipline, there's an aspect of friction of not wanting to do the thing, versus when you change your identity, it doesn't require discipline because that's just who you are. Does that make sense? Yeah. So the best way is to combine both the discipline in the beginning to like have a set structure, like every day, no matter what, I'm going to do this, this, and this, in combination with the identity. For example, speaking and feeling affirmations of the version of you you want to be. So those two combined, the daily actions and the embodiment of your higher self and keeping your awareness on that higher self is the fastest path to success. And that which gets measured gets improved. So, real quick, I want to show you guys the 90-day dashboard that you'll get in the Captain's Lifestyle program, which we're about to talk about. The next group starts on the 26th, will be our first call. So, this is what I'm talking about for structure. So, here's one of the pages, what I want to start doing, what do I want to stop doing, what do I want to continue doing, really getting clear on these things, and then keeping your long-term vision in mind, 10-year personal, professional goals, 3-year, 1 year, and then getting down to the very specifics, 1 month, 2 month, 3 month. And then from there, get granular, weekly, create an ideal weekly schedule. And again, you get this as part of the program. And you put your goals, daily actionables, which we'll go over in the program, um, and then the captain's log for accountability. So putting your daily habits here. So these are the basics in terms of living a healthy lifestyle, cold shower, affirmations, knowledge, like learning to improve some skill, movement, sunrise, etc. So tracking these things is important. It gives you a sense of accountability towards self, and it gamifies it, makes it more fun as opposed to feeling like it's a grind, like you have to discipline yourself to it. Well, yes, you do. It's both. All right. So yeah, Pearson's law, that which gets measured gets improved. So, what would you like to experience instead? Up until this point, we've gotten very clear on your nightmare, what it is you no longer want to experience, what you no longer want to accept. So now it's time for you to use your imagination. Imagine January 2026. What does that version of you look like? What would you do? How would you feel? How do you go about your day? And how would that impact you and or your family? What would be different in your life as this higher version of you? The version of you who is aware. I'll give you an example of mine for 2025. For what would I do as the highest version of myself? I decided that the highest version of myself meditates, journals, reads, breathes, and gets in the ocean every single day. Those are some of the things that serve my highest expression. How does that make me feel? Alive, present, grateful, in love, revitalized, calm, peaceful. How does that impact me? Well, I feel more at peace, less inner turmoil and chaos, and more peace and harmony and clarity. And how does that impact the people I care about? Well, when I am acting out of love, when I am in love with life and show up as my highest expression of self, well, there's limitless ways that people can benefit from that. You guys are benefiting from it right now. I hope. I hope you guys are getting value from this. But this is what I do. This is an act of self-love for me, is teaching some of the things that have helped me come to this realization that took me from a place of survival, of unconscious living, where I was the victim of circumstance, to the conscious creator of my life. Now, this isn't to say, not even close, that things don't go wrong in my life or that everything's perfect. Quite the contrary. But what has been the biggest mindset shifts for me in the past year was in the ability to accept especially the difficult or challenging situations and not let them mean something about me, not make them mean something about me, or not let them completely derail my day, but simply resting in that awareness and really allowing it to be and feeling the feelings that come up. Feel the fear, the anxiety, the overwhelm. And instead of distracting myself from them or making them mean that I'm not good enough or trying to numb them, like really just allowing them to be, accepting them, and then choosing best from that place of awareness. The more that we can live an awake life, which means resting in between the stimulus and response, the more that we can live an awake life and make the conscious choices, choose which thoughts we believe, choose which actions to take. That's how we create our dream life in this awareness. So now let's get specific. With the vision that you started to draft, ask yourself this question in the three main categories of life: health, wealth, and relationships. So, health being your personal life, wealth being your professional life, and relationships. So, what one thing that you are not currently doing that if you did on a regular basis would bring the most positive impact in your personal life, professional life, and or relationship? Like, as long as I do this one thing consistently, this will bring a positive impact to my personal life. Now, again, that's not saying to not do the other things. Obviously, we do a lot of things every day, but what is the one thing? What is it that you wrote in the chat that you were struggling with at the beginning?
Consistent.
Routine. Oh, inconsistency and routine. Okay.
Yeah.
Why do you imagine that is? Why do you imagine that inconsistency is still a problem? If you see what you want, if you like put the things in there, but it comes time to do it and you don't do it, what? Why do you imagine that is?
Emotions.
Emotions?
Yes.
What do you mean?
That moment, like what I'm feeling at that moment. It doesn't matter like how much it means to me. Like I won't do it because I feel tired or I feel um I use tired as an example, which there's I'm not really tired much, but um busy. Like I'm like, oh, I don't have time for that. Like it's not a priority of mine right now. Like I would prefer not to do that because I'm
Mm,
not feeling motivated to do it or disciplined to do it, or
hmm
I don't know how to explain it. It's just I don't want to do it. So I don't do it. But I
Yeah.
really want
So,
to do those things because in order to do those things, that's where my purpose is and like my vision. So why am I not doing
well,
those?
because you don't want to. We only do what it is that we want to do. So if that's a problem, then it's a problem of the identity.
Of the
That's
idea?
not clearly ingrained. It's not understood. It's an idea that you really like, but there's still some disconnect. And
Okay.
this can come from past stories or events that we draw examples from, and we build we are very good at building a case against ourselves,
Hmm.
right? Of why it's too hard or why it is too challenging, why it's easier to continue doing the or not doing the things because you're comfortable in your current state of existence and not really comfortable, but the instant comfort. It's the instant
Yes.
gratification instead of the uh, the delaying of it for the ultimate reward. So it's being able to switch pleasure seeking to reward. So pleasure is like the instant dopamine, however you choose to get it, scrolling social media, drugs, food, shopping, mindless binge watching TV, whatever. So switching out the pleasure seeking that feels good in the moment, but ultimately results in us being on this call today, switching the pleasure seeking to reward. So for something to be rewarding, there has to be some challenge overcame. There has to be some level of friction or discomfort. So something that could look like a reward would be like sitting down for a 3 hour focused work block where you actually do the thing you say you're going to do and nothing else, no matter what impulse or instinct comes up. The reward is being able to say no to the pulls and the urges. That's the reward. Like it doesn't
Oh,
feel, quote unquote good because you're not getting that instant hit of dopamine, but it feels rewarding on the other side. So what we are doing when we seek pleasure and that instant gratification is we're borrowing dopamine and pleasure from the future. And we're saying, I want this now. And then we feel worse later.
okay.
So
That's a
instead,
I've never looked at it.
yes. So instead, it's being able to sit in that temporary discomfort because you know that the reward that you get from it is what you're actually seeking.
Yeah.
Makes sense? So that combined with rewiring your brain
Yeah.
to think that way, which is the problem, which is what I teach in the program in the mindset module and the MVVP module, which we're about to touch on. So it's combining that with incorporating a structure to follow and support to hold you accountable. It the PIS acronym, the purpose,
Right.
identity, which involves the mindset, the MVVP, the structure to follow, which I provide in the program, and also you create yourself based on your schedule, and then the support to ensure that you're actually doing the things that you say and being supported. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I
Cool.
understood that part. I just never looked at a reward as being focused and doing the work as a reward. I just thought like, oh, I'm checking the mark, like it's getting
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
Not
Other
like,
things that are rewarding is like anything that is uncomfortable in the moment, but afterwards you feel good. So any form of hormetic stress, like an ice bath, like fasting, like exercise, right? Those things in the moment don't necessarily feel the best and are challenging, but afterwards you feel great.
yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Hmm. Also, keep in mind that whatever happened in the past does not mean that you have to behave that way in the present. You can just choose how you want to show up in the moment, regardless of any past behavior. Obviously, the more past rewarding behavior that you can stack up in a case for yourself, the easier it will be because human beings, our brains, like to have evidence and a reason for things to be true because we operate primarily when we are unconscious from the do, have, be paradigm. We have to do these specific things in order to have the things that we want And once we have the things that we want, then we will be the person we desire. So do the things, I have to go to work, and then I'll have the money, and then I'll be happy. Right? That's a very typical thought process. Do, have, be. What I'm teaching now is the be, do, have paradigm. Be the person you say you want to be now, because there's nothing preventing you from being that way now besides your own self-limiting beliefs. So once you see that, once you're able to reprogram the virus based on programming to no fault of your own that has been based in fear and uncertainty and scarcity, is reprogramming that to be how you want to be now. Once you show up as the person you want to be, of course, you're going to do the things that that person does. And when you do the things that that person does, you will have the things that that person has. So it's reversing it. Do, have, be, to be, do, have. Ready? Action. It's on you now. I have a very important question to ask you. How much longer are you willing to allow yourself to stay where you're at? I want you guys to answer this honestly in the chat. How much longer are you willing to allow yourself to stay where you're at? And be honest. If you're not actually ready to make these changes, if you want to wait a few months, if you're still comfortable, say that. Be honest. But I hope by now you realize that it is a choice, which is why I phrase it that way. How much longer are you willing to allow yourself to stay where you're at? So do you want to solve this problem now? Or do you want to act like you're just interested in accumulating information to use someday to change your behavior, which is what I call mental masturbation. Just thinking that you need more information, which is a delay tactic used by the ego to keep you comfortable. The ego doesn't want you to change. Lori says now. Love it, Lori. So here's a question. I keep forgetting to change the wording. When you have to go to the pee, it's supposed to say when you have to go pee, or when you have to go to the bathroom. I just combined the two. So when you have to go to the bathroom, what do? Do you do a quick Google search to come up with the best technique? Do you call a friend and ask for advice? Do you hop on a live training and go through a bunch of slides and then decide whether or not you're going to go to the bathroom? No. When you have to relieve yourself, you get up and do it. The same exact strategy can be applied to every area of your life. So going back to the three main areas of your life, personal, professional, and relationships, once you identify a problem that you're experiencing and a solution to that problem, new behaviors to implement, then you just take those actions, right? Take the actions and combine it with being that person now, being the type of person who takes decisive action towards the things you know are beneficial for you, and maintaining that awareness. So let me ask you guys this. What is the cost of not changing? How long have you been aware of your procrastination, of your self-sabotage, of the bad habits? What's the cost of continuing those for another few years? You think you will be closer to manifesting your vision that you journaled about a few minutes ago? Probably not. Probably even farther away from achieving it. This is real. Like this, what's the cost of not changing? I want you guys to actually think about that. Like, really, what's the cost of continuing the self-destructive behaviors, continuing to believe you are unworthy, continuing to be disappointed in your actions? What's the real cost of that? And how much longer are you willing to tolerate that? There is nothing that's preventing you from making these changes besides your own self-limiting beliefs, whatever bullshit story you're telling yourself for why you can't, for why it's not the right time. I don't have time. I'm too busy. Guess what? There's always going to be a reason not to. All you got to do is find your why. Find the reason that's worth enduring every single challenge and obstacle. What's your why? Ask yourself a few times, why? This is what we do in the program, which, speaking of the program, let's talk about this. I'd like to invite you guys to join the next cohort of the Captain's Lifestyle program starting on January 26th. A couple of you guys have already gone through the program, Chris and Andy. Well, Andy, bad boy Andy, I'm going to tattle on you. You haven't finished the program because of the problem that you mentioned at the beginning of this call, procrastination. So we're going to fix that this next go around. It's going to be fun. We're going to go through it as a group. So my invitation for you is to create your dream life. So real quick, let me share my screen of the program, and I will send you guys the website so you can check it out because we're not going to go in depth into it. So the program is my 90-day complete lifestyle transformation program, and it covers in depth the PISS strategy, the 4 essential ingredients required to change. Although that's not mentioned in the program, that's something I cleverly discovered after the fact. I would have loved saying PISS in the program, but it covers your purpose, your identity, structure, and system or support. So it gives you the structure. It gives you, let's see, you guys can still see my screen. Going back to the 90-day dashboard, it gives you this template to follow of the habits that will optimize your health, help you stay focused on whatever it is you want, because you get to put in your specific roles in here and your specific actionables that you determine are the things that will bring you closer to your desired outcome. And then also creating your ideal weekly schedule. So back to the program, starting off with reconnecting with nature. So this is how we can begin to heal and feel better instantaneously, increase energy, sleeping better, feeling better, improved mood, all of these things just by getting back to our nature, because we are nature. So understanding how to harmonize your body with the earth and your natural circadian rhythms. The mindset module is a big one where we dive deep into eradicating the mind virus and reprogramming the captain frequency, which is where you're aware of the self-destructive thoughts and you understand how to transmute them into action, to action of your choice, not reaction, conscious action. So we cover the 10 principles of an unfuckwithable mindset. Then we get into the most important module, mission, vision, values, and purpose, where you define very clearly your vision, who you are, what you're here to do, who you're here to serve. That becomes your North Star, and it becomes a filter through which you make decisions. Because if you have identified what it is that you want in your life and how you want to show up, then you just ask yourself, does this align with my MVVP? Is this bringing me closer to my ideal outcome? Or is it moving me farther away? And it really is that simple. It's choosing best. Then we get into brain health and optimizing your focus and time management and reducing stress and talking about sleep and nutrition. This is all the easy stuff. The health is the easy stuff. It may not seem like it now, but I promise you guys, health is the simple things. That is the quick outline of the program. We go for 12 weeks. Each week you hop on a group call with myself and everybody else going through the program to discuss the information, ask any questions, and most importantly, go over homework. Because yes, there is going to be homework assignments, because the program only works if you do the work. As Captain Acta Non Verba aka Chris, knows. He's graduated the program. He has done the work, made tremendous progress. Salute to you, Captain Chris. And there is the option for one-on-one coaching if you have something specific that you'd like to work on or want to go a little bit deeper into the stories to eradicate the mind virus and really identify where the self-doubt or procrastination is coming from. That's where the one-on-one calls come in handy. But that's all I got for you guys today. Hopefully you now see that it's a choice. It's a choice to stay the same. It's a choice to make changes. The choice is yours. It's about choosing to give up the short-term pleasure, which is really not pleasure because it makes us uncomfortable when we continue making those choices, and instead choose the reward of actually loving your life, of actually thriving, like feeling this sense of gratitude and fulfillment for the choices that you have made, not being disappointed in where you are. And again, the first step is acceptance. It's acceptance. Because realize this is that it's not your fault. It's not your fault. Because we come with years and decades and generations of faulty programming that, again, has been based in fear and scarcity. And that's not your fault. But it is your responsibility to change it. It is your responsibility to end the generational curse and to instead create generational love and freedom. I want that to really sink in. Like, it is your, now that you understand this information, it is your responsibility to end the generational curses, end the suffering that you have been experiencing, to create a more beautiful world we all know is possible. This is the responsibility that keeps me going. This is my purpose, to make thriving standard. That's why I do what I do. That's why I'm grateful for each and every one of you guys for being on this call and for being a member of the collective, for choosing to prioritize yourself. Everybody says they want change. Well, not everybody. Some people like really hate themselves and they're just like, yes, I'm okay just doing nothing and whatever. Most people say they want change. Very few actually take action. So thank you guys for at least taking the first step and being on this call and ready to take action. So I will send you the link to check out the website for the program. And if you'd like to apply, it'll take you to the initial assessment, and that will tell me a lot of information about you, where you're at. And then at the end, you can book a call to have a consultation with me to where we can go over your results and see if you'd be a good fit for the program or one-on-one coaching, or maybe I can't help you at all and I'll refer you somewhere else, or maybe just hang out in the collective.